about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
All right. We are back on Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So a few of you have been pretty grumpy because you have felt sick. You thought you had the flu, or you thought you had allergies, or you thought you had COVID. You go online, talk to a telemedicine physician, and they say you have something different than what you thought you had. And then you tell me, how the hell do they know? And then how do I know? How do you know if you have the flu? How do you know if you have COVID? How do you know if it's allergies, simple cold, pneumonia? How do you tell the difference? Now, how I was trained in medical school is if I needed a test to test you, I was incompetent. Our attendings would be furious when we would say, okay, person comes in with abdominal pain, lack of appetite, fever, we need to do a CAT scan. Like, what's your diagnosis? Well, I think it could be appendicitis, it could be a cecal diverticulitis, it could be this and that. They go, if you can't make the diagnosis without a scan, then you're not worth your scrubs. You got it. You need to be able to, come up with a decent diagnosis. And this is why telemedicine has been able to grow and be accepted. One is it's very convenient for patients. Two, it's a heck of a lot cheaper as insurance companies are pivoting people to telemedicine as opposed to the urgent care and ER. But also, we do have the ability to narrow a lot of things down by history. The thing is you need history and physical. And I really, really think the physical part of it is still extremely important. And because of liability and because we have lawyers who like to sue, because that's what they do, we do need to run tests to back us up and to protect our our liable butts and to protect our patients. So if you're sick and you're like, well, what do I do? Do I wait it out? Sometimes waiting it out is not advantageous because if you have the flu, as we've talked about, we need to get you on an anti-flu medication within the first 48 hours, ideally. Because once you wait 5 days, the virus, when you get the flu virus, the virus comes in, takes over a cell, hijacks the cell, makes the cell then make new viral particles. Those viral particles, the babies, go to new cells, make those cells manufacture more viral particles. So by the time it takes over a good amount of your cells, then your body notices it. You start to feel sick pretty abruptly. But by then, the virus is already out and has already infected a lot of cells. So at onset of symptoms, we need to try to catch it early. But after 3-4 days, it's debatable if the antivirals will work, and many doctors will not treat you. They'll say, well, it's already too late. You got to write it out. Let's make sure you don't have any flu-related consequences. As I think we just had a person die in North Carolina from flu-related illness. Not so much the flu killed him, but he might have gotten pneumonia or heart disease. I have to look at the case study, but we're hearing somebody died from flu. What exactly happened? Hopefully we'll get some details soon. So you need to kind of make a judgment call. So how I look at the difference of all of these is flu hits you like a ton of bricks pretty damn quickly. You could tell me the time of day. Well, I woke up, ate breakfast, went to work, had a meeting at 10:30, went back to my desk, and then I started to feel bad at about 11:22. I mean, you could almost tell me the time of day. And when it hits hard. You got the high fever. You got the coughing, the headache, the body aches, the sneezing, sometimes sore throat, sometimes nausea, vomiting. You get a whole bunch of symptoms pretty abruptly. And it evolves over the next few hours. And it's pretty quick in terms of symptom onset. And then you just want to lie down and you feel like, once a person said they feel like the S word, I knew it was a flu. That's how I diagnosed it. COVID, a little different. Now, some people might not feel it until they finally, the dust settles, in their day. But with COVID, oftentimes the fever doesn't get high right away. And the onset of symptoms it evolves a little bit more. And so you might start off with a sore throat. You might start off with a headache. Then the next day, the cough comes. So it has a more slower onset. For some people, it might hit them quickly, especially if they didn't, they weren't aware of their symptoms. Some people are pretty tough cookies, but COVID, and I'm not saying this is for everybody, all right? But COVID sometimes differs from flu in that respect. You still should get both of them checked out because with COVID, you have a 5-day window to get started on medication, like the Paxlovid or the Molnupiravir. Most of the time, we're using Paxlovid. Paxlovid's a 5-day treatment that can hopefully mitigate the severe symptoms of COVID and minimize your having long-term COVID symptoms. Flu, you usually get better within 5 to 7 days, unless you get a pneumonia or heart disease. With COVID, it could go on for weeks. It's more insidious. Allergies, you don't usually have colored mucus. It doesn't necessarily hurt when you sneeze or hurt when you cough. It's cyclical. You might have multiple sneezing episodes. You can feel fatigued. You can feel wheezy. It can restrict your breathing. But usually with allergies, you don't have a fever. Allergies can be very serious in terms of causing you to go into an asthma exacerbation, putting you at risk for pneumonia and other infections. But with allergies, and fall allergies are a thing. A lot of people are now dealing with allergies and changes in their breathing. That doesn't necessarily need to be treated with an antiviral. That might be needed to be treated with antihistamines and anti-allergy medications. Pneumonia, that's a tricky one because we definitely don't want to miss that. Pneumonia is where you can have severe cough, chest pain, difficulty breathing, fever, sometimes a low-grade fever, sometimes a high-grade fever, sometimes no fever. But if your lungs sound crackly and make noise when we examine you, we oftentimes will do a chest x-ray or, base it on exam. These are things, again, I don't want you at home trying to figure out if you have or not. Get yourself checked out. All right, I hope I broke that down for you, okay? 1-877-DOC-DALIAH.
This is an urgent announcement for anyone that's $10,000 or more in debt. Before you make another minimum payment, you need to know there are special programs that can completely free you of your debt. Total Financial Freedom can help you become debt-free in months instead of years. Resolve your credit card debt, signature loans, department store cards, internet loans, and timeshares. Call Total Financial Freedom now at 800-878-6020 for a free consultation. For 16 years, Total Financial Freedom has helped thousands get out of debt. You can feel confident when calling because Total Financial Freedom is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau. Battling for years and years, stuck in the endless cycle of minimum payments could take decades. You have the right to get your debt resolved and substantially reduce your monthly payments. Call Total Financial Freedom now at 800-878-6020. That's 800-878-6020. 800-878-6020.
Dr. Daliah here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Lisa Wolf here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you. And be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Daliah, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So the Democrats are just digging themselves into a deeper hole. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer had boasted how with the shutdown, every day gets better for us. And dragging on now into day 9 is definitely not making him any friends or making the Democrats look good. While we have Trump, trying to negotiate peace in the Middle East, get hostages home, work on making a more secure Middle Eastern future, trying to rid Iran of nuclear weapons and securing the border and strengthening the economy and bringing money in, you have Democrats who are still crying over spilled milk, crying over licking their wounds over the election, saying, you know what, if we pull the plug on this presidency, that is a win for us. So shutting down the government to them is pulling the plug on Trump. So Trump can't work. Trump is going to work. He is going to continue to work. So that's not going to be successful in any means. And in terms of them thinking, well, we're going to get them to negotiate on Obamacare. We're going to get some wins. The continuing resolution to temporarily fund the government. And by the way, this is temporary, which means we're going to be dealing with this again next year. This is not the time to start negotiating the nooks and crannies of what illegals get, what Medicaid recipients get. That's not what this is. Okay, Congress can at any time make a bill, make a resolution, can vote on things. But what the Democrats want to do is hold Republicans hostage to try to get what they want because the midterms are coming. Chuck Schumer has a big election coming. And so, I know the Democrats are like, well, the Republicans own. In fact, I was getting news alerts where they said Republican-owned Senate fails to end the shutdown. Well, the Republican-dominated. Okay, listen, they need 60 votes. You can twist it any way you like. It's the Democrats not signing the CR. And I think it's getting more obvious. Senate Majority Leader John Thune said Democrats could care less whether military families miss a paycheck tomorrow. In an interview posted this morning, the Democratic leader said, every day gets better for us. He says this isn't a political game. Democrats might feel that way, but I don't know of anybody else that does. The longer this goes on, the more the American people realize that Democrats own this shutdown. So The Hill is reporting that Thune cited a morning consult poll showing Democrats are getting more blame for the shutdown. The poll showed 43% of voters blame Republicans for the shutdown, while 38% blame Democrats, but the number of respondents who blame Democrats was now up 6 points compared with an earlier poll. Now, that's still showing people think this is the Republicans' fault. And that's messaging, from the Democrats. And I don't want to be biased, but I think it is so obvious who's causing this. I've looked at the CR. Now, if it's identical to previous ones that Democrats have voted on, really, what's the problem now with it? It's not that. It's just they want to use this opportunity to make some headway with some of the things that they want. And it's getting ridiculous. And my concern is it's not a good look for any of us, Republican or Democrat. I mean, we got a lot of work to do, and Trump is getting a lot of work done. And I mean, this ceasefire and peace plan to get the hostages home and to get Hamas out of control in Gaza, which is going to free Palestinians from Hamas. It's huge. We got a lot of work to do. We need our military. If Hamas starts to act up, if Iran, if North Korea, China, the last thing we want to look like is that we're divided or we're stupid. And really shutting down the government, they think is a smart idea. It's embarrassing, especially since it's so obvious what they're doing. Now, I am concerned about our healthcare system. Obamacare is a nightmare. It is an absolute nightmare. And it destroyed the healthcare system I knew and trained in. And now we are dealing with high deductibles. We're dealing with, a subsidy system where if insurance companies raise their premiums, no big deal, we will give them more money. What kind of a system is that? Now, insurance companies in their defense is, well, what do you want from us? We're paying for cancer. We're paying for high blood pressure, cholesterol. We're paying for obesity drugs. And Obamacare does not incentivize people to sign up for insurance when they're well. So the majority of our patients are sick, and they're not paying the premiums, enough premiums to cover all the medical we're spending on them. It's a mess. We do need to fix Obamacare. We need to actually throw out Obamacare and start over. Unfortunately, that won't happen. What, Kathleen Sebelius and Obama and everybody else had done, Nancy Pelosi, is designed a bill where it's like cutting the red wire. It would implode our healthcare system. Now that everything is, I mean, look at your average doctor. My office. Can you go to my office and see me? No. Doctors are employees now. And you're lucky if you get to see the same one. So here's Chuck Schumer bragging about how every day is good for them. Yeah, they want to, they're thinking that if they could make a shutdown go for months, they could say, you see what happened with the Republicans. The problem is the average American is not stupid. If they're seeing that Trump is working, and Trump is working every day, and they're seeing he's getting stuff done, they might not like, the illegal immigrants being, deported. And, it's interesting because I saw somebody quote scripture saying that we're supposed to like our immigrants and welcome them and welcome people of other lands. And listen, we as a country have an immigration process. So does Canada, so does Japan, so does Germany. We have immigration processes. But if somebody violates it, it is our duty to make sure that those doing it right, have those protections where that immigration plan is in place. Look at how what happened under Biden ruined it for everybody else. Now it's a lot harder to get into the country. There's a longer wait. If Biden wouldn't have let the border be so loose with so many illegal immigrants coming across, we wouldn't be in this mess. And when people say, oh my gosh, Trump is deporting illegal immigrants. Well, if you look at Canada's deportation rules, they're even stricter. You provide misinformation, you come across illegally, you're out. Why aren't people protesting Canada? Well, because Canada doesn't have to mass deport because they didn't have a mass influx. They didn't let that happen. I was in Israel, taking my mom to see it for the first time. You bet your butt they wanted to make sure they knew when I was coming and when I was leaving. They also want to make sure if I was a citizen, because, with my name, they're like, well, because I'm half Israeli, they're like, well, we might need you. Hey, are you sure you're not a citizen? I'm like, no, I'm a citizen of America. God bless America. Then they saw my mom and they're like, yeah, you know what, both of you, I think it's better you go back to America. But you couldn't get into the country or out of the country without there being that specification of look, I'm not here to, sneak across the border or take advantage of, and I get it. We have some bad countries and bad people out there hurting individuals where they want to seek asylum. And America gratefully is taking those people in, but we just can't take on the whole world. And when we saw Americans and veterans and people suffer, when you saw homeless veterans get kicked out of their shelters because they had to make room for illegal migrants, come on, there's I want to help everybody. I don't care what your legal status is. As a doctor, I want to be there for everybody. But at some point, you got to triage. We only have X amount of money. We only have X amount of shelters. We only have X amount of hospital beds. And we got to do this right. And so I don't know what's going to happen with this shutdown. I think the Democrats are going to still try to hold the line. It's going to take people complaining. Many of the federal workers, though, who are furloughed, they might complain if they really need their paycheck because they're working paycheck to paycheck. But for those people who said, look, it's a paid vacation, there's people who are really affected by this are going to have to complain. 1-877 Doc Daliah.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
in many states, the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts. Due to a cleaner burn, there are less hydrocarbons and particulate matter in your exhaust. This reduces the blockage of your diesel particulate filter. Using Diesel Extreme generates 83% less DPF regeneration. The 6-in-1 Diesel Extreme formula also includes the most concentrated detergent on the market, lubricity enhancer, water demulsifier, rust and corrosion inhibitors, and a fuel stabilizer.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Daliah, 1-877 DOCDALI. So CNN is reporting that a man in China lived over 170 days after getting transplanted with a pig liver. Now, we have been trying to use organs from pigs because pigs are easy to breed. They have a lot of similarities to humans. And organs can be pretty sturdy. We've used pig valves for hearts. But a liver, that's a pretty juicy organ that has to work right. And doctors in China say they transplanted a genetically modified pig liver into a 71-year-old man who lived 171 days after the procedure. And 38 of those days were with the pig organ in place. Okay, so that means he only lived 38 days with the liver. Scientists have said, according to CNN, that they have had early success transplanting genetically modified pig kidneys and hearts into humans. Pig livers have been transplanted to people who were brain dead. But experts in the field of xenotransplantation, meaning using animal organs in people, have had some concerns about whether the liver was realistic. Liver is pretty complicated. I call it a juicy organ because it has a lot of functions, very juicy, enzymes, filters. It's to make a trachea, make an outside of an ear. That's one thing. I mean, a valve has to work mechanically, but it doesn't necessarily have to exude things and function and process and metabolize. So a liver is juicy. And for them to be able to have somebody live 38 days with the organ in place and 171 days after the procedure is huge. Liver filters blood, removes toxins and waste, processes nutrients, detoxifies harmful substances like alcohol and drugs. It produces bile that gets stored in your gallbladder to help with digestion. Also produces proteins that help blood clot, regulates blood sugar, helps increase glucagon when your sugar is low to help you make sugar. So there's a lot of things that the liver does. CNN is reporting that last year, doctors at Penn Medicine did the world's first known successful external liver perfusion using a gene-edited pig organ. Blood from a brain-dead patient circulated through a pig liver outside the person's body. In that case, the pig liver showed no signs of inflammation the 72 hours it was tested, and the patient's body remained stable. The transplanted pig liver given to a brain-dead patient in China in March of 2024 was removed at the family's request 10 days after surgery. There had been no signs of immune rejection or accumulation of inflammation. So experts say this, a new study that was published in the Journal of Hepatology, hepatology is the study of liver, suggests that pig-to-human liver transplantation shows promise. And it shows promise for use as a bridge to help a human who has a serious liver condition, and we have millions of people suffer with liver disease, where they could live long enough to either recover with their own liver or to be able to wait for a donor liver to come available. So when people look at these and go, well, wait a second, the person's not able to live, they're undergoing an expensive procedure, and it only was able to last 38 days, or that could be enough until a human liver is available. So, plus, the liver can heal. You have the left lobe of the liver as well. You have the right. I mean, you have extra liver tissue that could maybe regenerate to the point where it could do what it needs to. And so having that extra help is huge. They say more than 100,000 people are on organ transplant waiting lists in the U.S., and 9,000 are waiting for a liver. And with the liver, it's tricky because, with a kidney, at least some people have two kidneys. You could give one, like Selena Gomez was able to get one from somebody who donated her kidney to her, although it turns out the donor was not invited to her wedding, so that has caused some drama. But you having two kidneys, you could donate one. With liver, that's tricky. We have a family member who has had autoimmune disease, but after he got his second Moderna shot, the next day, he goes into liver failure. Now, the doctors do not think it was the Moderna shot. They think he just had coincidental liver failure, but he needed a liver. At the time, with COVID, we had people who were dying of COVID that had organs they could donate, but they couldn't give an organ of a COVID patient to somebody because COVID was killing unless they were vaccinated. And so my family member was able to get the liver from a young man who died of COVID and asthma complications, whose liver was pretty healthy, because my family member had the vaccine. Even though there's been some question, did the vaccine accelerate? Who knows? So and our family member is still doing alive and well a few years later. So human liver transplants can save lives, but one has to be available, and it's got to be the right time. The stars have to be aligned, and livers are the second biggest need after kidneys, according to U.S. Health Resources and Services Administration. And so we need kidneys, we need livers, because liver failure, kidney failure, heart failure, new hearts are important, but it's, they're just tougher to get. The problem is our organ donation system has issues. RFK Jr. has announced a historical crackdown on our quote-unquote broken organ donation system. He wants reforms, as there have been reports of individuals being prepped for donor surgery when they technically weren't brain dead. I mean, these are things that are kind of scary. And so HHS Secretary said every American should feel safe becoming an organ donor and giving the gift of life. He says yet decades of ignored patient safety concerns have driven more and more Americans off the donor list. Today, under President Trump's leadership, we are taking bold action and historic action to restore trust in the organ procurement process. And this was, I believe, 2 weeks ago. So they are going to decertify an organ procurement organization mid-cycle. And they say the Life Alliance Organ Recovery Agency based in Miami, Florida, according to Fox News, and RFK Jr., says has a long record of deficiencies directly tied to patient harm. Staffing shortfalls alone may have caused as many as 8 missed organ recoveries each week, roughly 1 life lost each day. Now, Kennedy has a nephew, Michael, who had cerebral palsy, died at the age of 20. His organs went on to save multiple lives. So RFK Jr. is pro-organ donation. He says it's an extraordinary gift and will give meaning to our lives. No matter how different we are on the outside, we're all the same inside, and we could give the gift of life to each other. Well, understandably, we can't reject another human's organ, so it has to be typed and as genetically close as possible. But yes, he's right. We can give the gift of life. So we need more organ donors. And many individuals are concerned because of religious reasons. You have to be whole with the coming of Christ or with the coming of the Messiah. And, many people are concerned about, not having organs, and it's, it's a personal decision. And, the last thing, though, we want people fearful of is that somebody's going to call it or not do CPR because they're an organ donor. That's not, and it's scary because that's what people think. They think somebody says, whoa, they're an organ donor. Oh, okay, we need organs. All right, let's call it 10:42 a.m. I mean, that should not happen. I have never seen that happen, but that's what people are concerned about. So we do need to restore trust. And I guess grow more pigs. 1-877-Daliah. Don't go away.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit, and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799, and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
As an organ donor, your story doesn't have to end. The good in you can live on. In fact, you could save up to 8 lives and restore sight and health for many more. Sign up right now online as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. You'll be happy you did. And just maybe, someone else will be happy too. Go to organdonor.gov. It saves lives. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So a couple bits of breaking news. President Trump, as expected and predicted, will be going to the Middle East to celebrate, hopefully, this historic peace deal. I think what he did was absolutely incredible. Was the first person in a long time to be able to get other countries to care and get the hostages out and demilitarize Hamas and free Palestine from Hamas control. And so this is huge. I think Trump should be in the Middle East when this happens. I think there's going to be a lot of photo ops. This is a huge, huge deal. Getting everybody who worked together on this To actually see Israel work side by side with Qatar and with other countries, it's huge. It's, and the Hamas massacre that killed 1,200 people, took 251 hostages, killing most of them with only 20 possibly still alive, bodies of others still in Hamas control. Getting those individuals back is huge. The president will be speaking at the Knesset, which is Israel's House of Representatives. They asked him to speak at it, and he agreed to it. He is. This is a huge win. So the hostages coming back. We were hoping that they would be released this week, but I think Hamas is stalling, and they're waiting for Israel to move back. They have like 3 zones where Israel moves back. There's a ceasefire. After 24 hours of the ceasefire, they start to release. They're saying, well, they may not be able to find all the bodies. They better not play games. So initial reports was we were going to see the hostages home, hopefully by Saturday or Sunday. Now we're being told it might be Monday or Tuesday. So I just, the sooner the better. I am just hoping that Hamas is going to have 72 hours to return all the hostages after the ceasefire ends, 24 hours after the Israeli government approval. So once Israel approves that ceasefire, that 24-hour clock starts ticking. Once that 24 hours is over of the ceasefire, then Hamas has 72 hours. And I'm sure they are going to try to milk that for every second they have. Hamas is disgusting, but got to hold my tongue because we got to get the hostages back. Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Egypt came together. Getting these other countries to give a damn and to help out when no other countries would is huge. Trump organized that. And so, yes, I think he should be in the Middle East. There's going to be a lot of photo ops for this. This is huge. This is historic. And it's definitely well done. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. We also have IRS. The IRS is open during the shutdown. I think there are some employees that were furloughed, but we're being told that, yes, the IRS is working. And one thing they have done, which I think is going to help a lot of people, is announcing new federal income tax brackets. And so this is supposed to help and provide relief as the tax brackets are accounting for inflation. So this update was released today. The IRS raised income threshold across all tax brackets, meaning you'll be paying higher taxes if you make more money, but you won't pay that higher tax if your income is still, it doesn't fall into that. So raising the tax brackets and raising the thresholds mean less people pay higher taxes. So the IRS usually updates these brackets in October or November to, quote, prevent something they call bracket creep, where inflation pushes taxpayers into higher rates and forces them to pay more in April. The top federal rate of 37% is now applied to individuals making more than $640,000 and married couples earning over $768,700 in 2026. So this isn't the money you made this year. This will be the clock starts for next year. That is a 2.5% jump in the current thresholds. They also boosted the standard deduction, the amount Americans can automatically subtract from their taxable income. Married couples filing jointly can now deduct $32,200. Now that is up from $31,500 this year. Single filers get $16,100 that they could deduct compared to $15,750. Both increases of 2.2%. Heads of households will get a $24,150 deduction instead of $23,850, up 1.3%. So you can definitely look up the tax brackets. I don't know if the IRS website is up because of the lockdown, but Daily Mail and multiple other news outlets are posting these. For those people that make up to $23,850, their 10% tax bracket is still there, but you're many of those individuals may not necessarily be paying taxes because of their lower income. But in terms of the wealthiest, those making over $626,000 singularly are the ones getting the 37%. 35% tax bracket for those making $250,000 to $626,000 individually. And then there's the 32% tax bracket, 24, 22. So seniors are also going to have a temporary tax deduction of up to $6,000 for people age 65 and older. Okay, that is huge, especially since seniors' rent is going up, their medications, what Medicare covers. So the one big beautiful bill does provide a temporary tax deduction of up to $6,000 for people age 65 and older. And so they say many Americans are going to be able to keep more money of their paycheck. Fewer will find themselves pushed into a higher tax bracket because their wages rose with inflation. Yeah, because that's kind of a double whammy. You know, you're paying more, so you're asking your employer to pay you more. You might have cost of living increase. Your employer pays you more, and now, because you're in that tax bracket, you have to pay higher taxes. So I think it is right. I think they should raise those levels. Absolutely. Now, it would be nice to have a job that does pay $600,000 a year. That is kind of nice. That's wow. Yeah. Oh, if you can find a job like that, please tell me. The IRS also adjusted long-term capital gains limits, the estate and gift tax exemption, eligibility for the earned income tax credit, all pegged to inflation. Now, the IRS, I think, had to furlough half its workforce, so refunds might be slower taxpayer assistance. And I know a lot of people are like, good, the IRS is furloughed, but only half of them. So if they still want to go after you, they're going to go after you. So trust me on that. But 40,000 IRS employees are remaining working. The majority of the operations are closed. Taxpayers with an October 15th extension deadline are advised to submit their returns as planned. One of you asked me about that. You had I'm not, this isn't a money show, but I do welcome all questions. Yes, I had to look it up. The October 15th deadline is not changing from what we understand. So if you have not filed your taxes like you were supposed to in April, and you got a extension all the way to October, 1, you're pretty lucky. That's kind of nice. But 2, you might want to get the stepping and get going on that one and get that taken care of. I got to tell you, you know, our accountant did one time have to do that because he was busy. Yeah, we got all our stuff in, but it wasn't, 2 months in advance or 3 months in advance. I told my husband, I go, get it in soon. Otherwise, we got to do an extension. He's like, tax isn't until April. I go, no. These accountants have a lot to do. They got a lot on their plate. You can't be dropping stuff off end of March. Otherwise, they need to. And I think that's nice that you can file for an extension. In the meantime, however, because of the lockdown, we're seeing air traffic controllers and air traffic control towers have issues staffing. In fact, we're being told that there are a lot of delays. We're seeing thousands of flights delayed because multiple airports are running behind schedule. Disruption is affecting New York to California and Florida. Runway congestion. There's also weather in some areas, but of course the government shutdown. We're being told by Daily Mail that LaGuardia has 45-minute delays. Philly, 15-minute waits, which actually isn't that bad for Philly, but still. Pack your patience. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH.
Can you believe, with all the recent violent protests, looting, and destruction, some areas are considering either defunding or abolishing the police? At a time when America's neighborhoods need the protection of police the most, some elected officials would rather create more chaos by playing politics. If you're sick of elected officials caving in to demands of the radical left, you're not alone. It's time we stand up and declare our support for local police. The majority of police officers are important partners in protecting our God-given rights. If you prefer freedom over chaos, then learn how you can help protect the local police that serve your community. Call today and request your free Support Your Local Police info packet. Dial 800-JBS-USA-1. That's 800-JBS-USA-1. Request your free Support Your Local Police info packet by calling 800-JBS-USA-1 today.